Hi, this is Grace from Brock, and welcome back as we talk about when it makes sense to borrow in our next episode of FinTips, sponsored by First Ontario Credit Union. With us today is Mark Perkins from First Ontario Credit Union. Mark is the Chief Operating Officer and has over 20 years experience in the financial industry. We've been getting some great tips from First Ontario Credit Union, and we are so excited to have Mark with us today to talk about when it makes sense to borrow as a student. So let's get started. Mark, I wanted to talk to you about the dreaded B word, borrowing. As a student, what should I know?
Well, first off, thanks for inviting me in today to talk. I'm very passionate about financial literacy and having gone through university and education and taking on debt myself. You learn a lot as you work in the financial industry for over 20 years of how you might have done things differently. So good question to start, and it's a big question. So many things go into managing debt, your relationship with debt, and borrowing. So the first thing is you need a plan. You need to know what your motivation for taking on the borrowing is. As everyone knows, each individual comes from their own circumstances, financial support at home, having scholarships or other opportunities through government programs. So what you want to do is you want to do some research. You want to get in, you want to know exactly, what is your education going to cost you when you're in a 3-year program, 4-year program? Do you want to take a master's onto that? So really, that can be a scary thing. Borrowing can be a scary thing, and often, especially in today's environment, economic environment where interest rates are going up, people are preaching to get your debt under control or to reduce your household debt. Debt is about investing, and if you're investing in your future, that's a positive thing as long as you know you can handle it and you can manage it and you know where to seek guidance and help. So this podcast, this framework, the student body and the school are trying to help create awareness and education around that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And is there ever a time when it comes to borrowing that it would make more sense to do that as opposed to just like pulling from my savings account?
Absolutely. I mean, there's almost a case for everything you can think of, every scenario, depending on who you are. And again, whether you have good, solid summer employment and you're just trying to make it year to year, or you need to take on, a full 4 years of educational debt before you can start paying it back. I very much promote, again, seeing what's out there through the One app in the student body here, where you can apply for bursaries or grants to support you. But it does make sense to borrow sometimes instead of pulling money out of investing. There's a whole bunch of scenarios, but basically it's a mathematics game. So OSAP, for example, is a zero interest loan when you're in school. While you are getting, north of 4%, sometimes even north of 5% on a savings account right nowadays. So putting that OSAP money into an investment and earning a return on that just gives you more bang for the buck when it comes to that. There's also different products. Again, if you have a summer job and you're creating RSP room, if you're over 18 and you can create a TFSA, which all the income, all the interest income or capital or dividends that you earn is tax-free, then it can also make sense there. I've probably learned in my life that I'm relatively debt adverse, but most of the people I work with, I've been in commercial banking and lending for 20 plus years. Those individuals are not scared of debt. They use it as a means to generate more income down the road, and that can come through any different numbers of investments, including in yourself.
So it seems like there's a lot of worry about debt as a student. Should we be worried? What do you have to say to that?
So yeah, the relationship with debt, as I've mentioned, is an emotional one, can be. Debt doesn't have to be a scary thing. In fact, I would say the majority of individuals I went to school with graduated with debt, and I assume the same is here at Brock. So, it's not something you have to be scared of or shy away from. But you do have to go in with your eyes open, and again, back to having a plan. If you know how to manage it, if you have a healthy relationship with that, and you know how to make the most of it, then it shouldn't be a scary thing. But you want to have a plan of how you're going to get out of it, because I can for one for sure share. I graduated university with debt and probably not responsible debt. Investing in myself, probably more investing in nights out. And when I got into the workforce, it is a bit of an anchor around you. That's where the plan comes in. If you go in with your eyes open and you know what percent of your paycheck needs to go towards reducing that, you can get on a plan. It's the same as a mortgage. In today's environment, homes are scary expensive. But if you go in with a plan and you go in with a backup plan, then it's nothing to be worried about. It is just the process you go through to achieving the goals in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I never thought about it that way. So what are some investments I should think about for earning interest income?
So interest income, so we have fixed rate products within First Ontario and within the industry. What I would most recommend is getting the advice of an industry professional in terms of what best fits your risk appetite. I already alluded to the TFSA, where all the interest income you're going to earn is going to be tax-free. Again, RSP rooms, if you're generating employment in the summer and you're creating RSP room, the government gives you all that tax back, and then you can apply that to your debt in the future as well. So there's a couple of different strategies you can take on. But while you are students and your income is likely on the lower side of things and you're not generating a lot of RSP room, I would say open up a TFSA. The rates are really strong right now. You'll see most FIs, including First Ontario, with a big push in the marketplace to bring on new relationships and new business. And again, if that's interest-free money, if you are talking about bursaries or grants or OSAP or anything like that, that's a great vehicle for it. If you are taking money out of a savings account, then it's almost a trade-off, a tit for tat, as to where it makes most sense, and that's where an industry professional like the wealth advisor at First Ontario would be worthwhile conversation to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned OSAP. Now, I know a lot of students here at Brock are using OSAP and they need that for, to support their educational funds, but they don't need all of those dollars right now. So is there any way they could use that extra money for something else?
So individual responsibility is an interesting thing. And by that, I mean, there are those individuals out there that if they have $1 in the pocket, they're going to spend it. And so we come right back to the beginning of the conversation where we talk about having a plan, knowing what your guardrails are. I talk about having an emotional relationship with money. Most people don't think about it that way, but it is a very emotional thing. It's one of those things that people, when they're in a tough spot, tend not to talk about. Your parents, your family, those around you, they influence your relationship with money. So again, it all starts there with a plan. But if you have a balanced relationship with money and you have a plan you're going to execute against, I would take all that OSAP money because it's interest-free.
Right.
And then I would open up a TFSA, I would put it in there, and I would only draw it out as I need to. And what you draw out, you can replace back into your TFSA in the future. If you're the type of individual that will see the money in their account and say, yes, I can go on that trip on spring break, or I can go out to dinner that extra time in the week, then maybe leave it where it is, right? And only take it when you absolutely need it. But there are definitely ways you can make money for yourself with that money. And it all starts with nickels and dimes, right? And as they grow, it makes a big difference.
So Mark, is there anything else you want to add or any final thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I would provide a bit of a summary. So I know I keep hammering it over the head here, but you need a plan. You need a budget. You need to know what your financial responsibilities are to get your education. You need to do some research. It's like any relationship. You're going to get as much out of it as what you put into it. So do your research. I understand there's a OneApp program through Brock University, which allows you to apply for any scholarship, bursaries, or grants in one single location. Try and see what you can take advantage of as a student. Any way you can offset the need for debt is a good thing, even though there's a healthy relationship and usage time for debt. I'll also put a shout out for First Ontario. We hire summer students every summer. You can get extra hours over the holidays or in March break and heavy vacation season. We pay excellent starting wages for our summer students. And for a lot of our summer students, they end up coming back with full-time employment. So again, use your community, use your relationships to look for ways to offset the need for debt. And if you're going to take it on, that's totally fine. You just want to do it in a healthy fashion.
Yeah, that's a great point mentioning the One App. I know a lot of Brock students, including myself, have applied for the One App, and it allows you to just make one application and you can actually apply for a multitude of different scholarships at one time. And you can apply every single year, just one application, and then yeah, you can be eligible for so many different scholarships. I've actually won a few myself, and that has definitely helped offset a bunch of financial costs. So thank you so much for adding that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thanks for having me here.
This has been great, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing all of your expert advice with us. I've definitely learned that I need a plan, that's for sure. I need a budget, and if it makes sense, I can borrow to have my money earning money for me. As always, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future podcast episodes, feel free to send an email to communications@firstontario.com.